Good afternoon. My name is Kristie Ferrantella, and I'm the President and CEO of the Nantucket Chamber of Commerce. And I thank you today for watching Small Biz Updates on NCTV 18. This is a partnership between the Chamber, NCTV 18, and the Keep the Rock Solid campaign. Today, I have Marina Jube joining us from the Nantucket Chamber of Commerce. She's our Director of Marketing. And I have Margaret Laforest and Sue Whitaker from Massachusetts Office of Business Development. Thank you both for joining us today.
Thanks, Kristie.
Thank you.
So today we're going to talk more about phase 2 and what that looks like for reopening the state of Massachusetts. I want to turn it over to Margaret and Sue to help lead that conversation.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so on Monday, June 22nd, we started step 2 of phase 2. And this is just a reminder whether you're in phase 2, phase 3, phase 4 of what your business is required to do for a safe reopening. So each business must complete a COVID-19 control plan. This is a template on the state website, mass.gov/reopening. And it's really a checklist for you to review the mandatory workplace safety standards around hygiene, staffing, cleaning and disinfecting. And this document is for you to maintain at your business. It does not need to be turned into the local Board of Health or to the state. It's for your business. Once you have completed your control plan, we're having you post a compliance attestation poster. And this is that you're self-certifying that your business has adhered to those mandatory workplace safety standards and is safe to reopen. That sends the message to your customers as well as to your employees that you have taken these additional safety steps and are in compliance. It really helps build that consumer confidence as well as we get to reopening. Some sectors have sector-specific protocols that the state put out, and we encourage you to also, because there's mandatory language by your sector. In a lot of the phase 2, step 2, for example, the close contact personal services, the nail salons, the tanning salons, the tattoo parlors, and that other personal services without close contact really captures a lot. We also have a sectors not addressed. So there's really great information for you. Make sure you check the state website. 2 more posters that you must post up are the employer and the worker poster. It's showing the steps that you as the employer have taken, as well as for the workers, what is expected of the workers. Best practice, nothing required, but a lot of times when the employers are completing the training, they're asking their employees to sign that they have completed the training, they understand the training, and will be in compliance with the mandatory workplace safety standards. So the governor on Monday, when we opened step 2, did give a heads up on phase 3 that he would like a minimum of 2 weeks of data from indoor dining before beginning phase 3, which puts the earliest start date for phase 3 at July 6th. So we are very big on data, not dates. It is the healthcare data that the Baker administration is watching to make determination of these dates for the phases. So our role here at the Mass Office of Business Development is to be the liaison for businesses and working closely with the Chamber. Kristie, we appreciate that you're with us each Friday on our call with Lieutenant Governor Polito, as well as Executive Office of Housing and Economic Secretary Mike Keneally, who Sue and I both work for. So our team is leading with Secretary Keneally, with Lieutenant Governor Polito, are co-chairing the reopening. And if there are any businesses offline who have questions or concerns or help understanding the safety protocols, we're here as a resource for you. We do have our contact information we'll be providing. And also, what's really key in this self-certification process is the state, as well as in local municipalities in Nantucket, have a clear common message, and it's education, not in compliance, not penalizing businesses. So if, for example, we expect that complaints are going to be customer-driven or worker-driven, we can contact the local Board of Health, the State Department of Public Health, the State Division of Labor Standards, the Attorney General has a hotline. And if a business should know that if an enforcement agency is contacting them, that we're there to educate you, to help you get your business and bring you into compliance, not to be issuing penalties for the business. So any questions questions and understanding on phase and reopening information, I do welcome you to contact me or Sue. The state does have some resources that I think are going to be of great value, and we want to give you an overview of those today. So Sue, hold on a second, let me advance our slide here. Here we go.
Great, thank you, Margaret. So the first item here we see is the Mass Hire Career Centers. And presently they have been closed. However, their services are still available to you. As a business, some career centers are offering virtual online job fairs so that if you are looking to hire individuals and candidates, they have a wide variety of individuals, and you can actually have a virtual job fair where you can be screening and interviewing candidates online. So take a look at the Mass Hire Career Centers for additional help with your staffing needs. And most of the services are free, so that's something to consider. The next item we see here is the WorkShare program. And the WorkShare program is what we call a layoff aversion program. And it's also something that you can use when you're bringing back staff to work. So many companies use this as a tool to avoid layoffs. How it works is instead of laying off your staff, you condense their hours and you limit their hours of working. So you may reduce the hours that they work between 10% and 60% of the hours, and then they are put on unemployment for those hours where they're not working. So they are subsidized. So you continue to pay their health insurance and their retirement benefits, and they stay on your payroll for the remainder of the hours that they are working for you. So this keeps them on your payroll and keeps them your employees. So it helps maintain that consistency, so you're not having to lay folks off and then worry that you may not be able to hire them back, and then the cost that's associated with having to retrain new people. So it's a terrific program. I highly encourage you to look at that link, and there is a video there that you can see that shows you how easy it is to enroll in the WorkShare program. And if you have any additional questions about WorkShare, I'd be happy to answer those questions offline. You can reach out and contact me. Next, we have the Division of Industrial Accidents Safety Training Grant. This is a grant that's released every June, and we just had the RFP released beginning of the month. And what it is it's an opportunity for businesses to apply for up to $25,000 in workplace safety training. And with the COVID-19 issue, we have obviously lots of businesses who are now finding them in a position where they require safety training where they may not have felt the need to provide that in the past. And I would encourage you, it's simply a 3-page online application, but I would encourage you to take advantage of it sooner rather than later, because it's really more of a first come, first serve opportunity. So once the money runs out, the money runs out. So take a close look at that. It also can be used for mandatory training that you have to provide, such as OSHA training. So take a close look, and again, if you have any questions on that, we're available for questions and answers to those questions. And then finally, there's a Workforce Training Fund Program grant through Commonwealth Corporation. And many businesses may not be aware, but when you pay into unemployment insurance, a small portion of that money is taken and put into this Workforce Training Fund grant. So any business who pays into the fund is eligible to take advantage of these programs. And they're all programs that are geared to training your incumbent workforce. So depending on the size of your organization will depend on whether or not you're eligible for the various programs. And one of the programs that all businesses are eligible for, who are eligible for the grant, can receive up to $250,000 in workforce training money. So it's really an exceptional program. Many businesses have taken advantage of this. And the way I look at it is, it's your money, the money that you're paying into, so why wouldn't you take advantage of it? And like I said, there's different programs that are different for each organization size. There's programs where you're reimbursed money. There's programs where you can send staff to trainings that are already in existence. So I encourage you to take a closer look at the Workforce Training Fund website. And again, happy to answer any questions on those. So those are a few additional business resources that you may already have been aware of, but maybe not. And if not, then like I said, I encourage you to take a closer look. Thank you.
Thanks, Sue. There's actually two more probably we should have added to the slide. One is the work opportunity tax credit, and that is a federal tax credit for employers that's available when they're hiring from certain targeted groups. For example, veterans are a targeted group. But I believe hiring someone off of unemployment or off of SNAP benefits is also in the targeted group. So that is a potential great resource as companies are bringing staff or hiring new staff. A lot of the information with, like, for example, the PPP program, when you're meeting your required rehiring, you don't necessarily have to, if the employee you would like to hire doesn't opt to return, you're able to replace with a new employee. So that is something else to take in mind. And also on the safety message, there's the safety consultation from the Department of Labor Standards, and they provide free on-site consultations. For example, if OSHA were to come to a company, they would penalize you if they found matters that were not in compliance. The free safety consultation reviews the company, shows where, if OSHA were there, the non-compliance matters would be, and help bring you into compliance, and that's a free program. So we really do have great resources. At the Mass Office of Business Development, there's 6 of us that cover the Commonwealth. Sue and I cover the Southeast and Greater Boston regions, and our role is really to help companies connect with these resources we mentioned and all the other resources the Commonwealth and our quasi-agencies offer. So, we really want to be a resource for companies. We welcome you to call us. We know that these, Zoom formats are hard to share personal information. So our cell phones are here and our emails are here. We welcome the opportunity. Like I said, we are the executive office of the Baker Polito administration business development team. We're the team for the Commonwealth that works with companies to help them grow here in Massachusetts or attract companies to the Commonwealth. So we do really encourage you to contact us. And there's also, we have plenty of resource partners. If there's technical assistance, you've seen the smallbstrong.com is a public-private partnership. And for companies, or a SCORE, or the Mass Small Business Development Center, we have great working relationships that can help guide you through if you need a cash flow analysis to forecast your financial statements and really understanding how your company is going to navigate COVID-19 and come on through. So we're here for you. And again, we do welcome you to contact us. We're happy to field any questions.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Margaret and Sue. I think that covers so much information that our businesses are looking for right now as they're trying to navigate, whether they're just starting to reopen, they've been reopened for a little bit, or looking to reopen in the next couple of phases. All of those resources will really come in handy. So Marina and I received a couple of questions beforehand that we're just going to kind of ping pong back and forth and read off some of the questions. But starting off first, I know that you mentioned we're really focused on data, not dates. How is the public health data trending right now?
Yeah, trending in a very positive direction. I believe we're at the 76% reduction from where we were just a few weeks ago. So we're really seeing substantial movement in the proper direction. So, as far as, actually, you'd say, I don't want to use the word negative. So the data is trending down, right? But for us, that's a positive indicator. So not to confuse that.
That's awesome.
And the state's publishing data every single day. It's publicly accessible. The governor is live every day on TV. He posts the time in the mornings. If you go to mass.gov, you scroll down to the COVID-19 for the latest updates, and you don't have to watch it live. It's stored on YouTube. So they're really presenting a lot of good information and making it as accessible as we can.
That's really good. And I know Nantucket just went 34 days without a case. So we've been, like you said, everything's about education over enforcement. And that's really what we've been working on here for our community and our businesses.
And it's a big relief. I know I'm serving on the Cape Cod Reopening Task Force, and they're talking about, one of the biggest concerns, even though Massachusetts is such a medical hub, and especially some of their more rural areas, is that healthcare access and what can the, medical community handle. And so the Cape, too, has been indicating that their hospitals are in a much stronger position now where they were as far as caseload as to where we were, 4 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago. So as for now, things are holding, but the governor, as more is opened up, and the first phases were a lot of outdoor activities opening up, now is things like indoor dining are opening, that indoor experience with the opportunity for spread increases. So the governor is looking for 2 weeks of indoor dining data before making this decision on a start date for phase 3. I would say, though, as we look forward to phase 3, because especially a lot of the seasonal and the tourism economy businesses, the museums, and a lot of that kind of hospitality experience are in the later phases, there's a lot of anxiety. What you can anticipate is, just like the governor did for phase 2, is saying the week before, we're hoping to bring the phase back, to bring employees back to prep and get ready, and that you'll see that additional maybe 48-hour notice for the start date. So as you're preparing when you're going to be able to bring your employees back, expect phase 3, phase 4 businesses to do the same.
That's really good, helpful information.
Yeah, so our next question is, can you talk a little bit more about the new grant program that's offered by the DOT and other available resources for businesses?
Sure. So that's the Shared Streets program. And so that would be a municipal grant. So the municipality, the town of Nantucket, could apply. And what it is funding. For example, you're seeing a lot of businesses pivot that are indoor, for example, indoor dining or street level retail. And we want to be able to expand to create that outdoor experience. And so the grant program is funding for the municipalities to create, whether they're going to take a pocket park or a sidewalk or a parking lot, for creation and support of outdoor dining and kind of that street level retail, activating that main street. And so that is, the application is now open, and it's open through the summer. So I really encourage Nantucket to apply. Have you seen creative? I'd be curious kind of what creativity have been on island to see what you've been able to do. I know you have a lot of outdoor dining experience, but any creative ideas happening out there?
Yes, we've seen so many businesses, that keyword pivot. We've seen so many businesses pivoting this year. We have the Chicken Box, which is typically a live entertainment, brings a ton of bands to the island, a very lively bar. They've now transitioned for this summer, since that's phase 4, to have outdoor dining. So they have food trucks. They just redid their parking lot, which was typically just, a town parking lot, to have grass and picnic tables and lights all over. So really kind of transitioning that mid-island experience on the island. We also saw our brewery shift, from being kind of that live entertainment and outdoor brewery to outdoor dining as well, seated arrangements, reservations, things that, didn't exist last year, but we're working through some of those kinks this year.
That's great. That's great to hear. Thank you.
Yes, and we've seen so many businesses start with that outdoor dining, and the town's been working really greatly with all the businesses to see if there's any sidewalks or public spaces that can be opened up for businesses.
And I think it's so important, and I think this is why, for example, in Massachusetts, that you're seeing it's been it's been strategic, it's been methodical, but really been generally received with great attitudes and people wanting to make it work, right? How is it we're able to work together, make things work, understand the restrictions, but safely reopen? So I'm happy to hear that's, and I expected nothing less with the vibe of Nantucket.
Yes. So I know you mentioned a little bit about when we might move into phase 3. Can you give a little bit of detail of what the step 2 of phase 2 has been?
Yes. So let's see. So step 2 has been indoor table service, the personal services. So I know a lot of people, the salons and barbershops opened in step 1, but now it's the massage. It's the, got a pedicure the other day, nail care, tanning salons. tattoo parlors, that kind of close contact personal services, personal training with restrictions. You know, I know fitness facilities are held out to phase 3, and there's, you know, a lot of frustration on that. But the other piece of office space was originally reduced to 25% capacity. It's now 50% capacity. And I think one of the things that we're seeing and experiencing, as well as the message from the Commonwealth, is, you know, even though we're loosening these restrictions, employees who can telework, who can work remote, to continue to encouraging to do that. And we're hearing from a lot of companies that their employees are out through the end of the summer, regardless of what the office guidance is, or some through the end of the year. The other piece to make note is the Mbta, so public transportation and childcare, so 2 big enablers of reactivating the workforce. So the Mbta had significantly reduced service, and they have added much capacity effective Monday, June 22nd. And what their message is that we're increasing our service. We have plenty of capacity. We're, you know, to allow for social distancing. They recognize the data of the, you know, the bus routes and where the heavy service users are. They are still adding even more. So they have plenty of capacity to handle for what the situations are. And they're utilizing some new technology on some of those heavier bus routes so that people know what to expect. So that's another piece. And then the child care, obviously the child care businesses were open, and there's a lot of restrictions there to get into compliance, and obviously a lot of concern for the young children in the Commonwealth. So they are, you know, cleared to reopen. The summer camps are starting to get going for day camps, with overnight camps coming in at future phases. So people are working through it, and I think there are some who are opting to delay their open, some because their clientele maybe are now working from home and aren't in any of their services. So it's most definitely been a challenge. The state obviously has expanded. We had the childcare services that were declared essential. You know, that has a search portal, and it, you know, has capacity as well. So currently what we're hearing is there are capacity, but what people are used to and their childcare providers more and more are coming online as they're figuring out how to work within their guidance.
That's great.
So just going off of the personal experiences, so I know retail can now do fitting rooms. Would you be able to explain a little bit more about how that works? So like, can anyone else be in the store during that, or?
Yeah. So fitting rooms are by appointment only. And what they're saying is garments that have been tried on must be steam cleaned or held out for 24 hours before going back to the sales floor. So there's some definite restrictions on the retail fitting rooms.
So if someone were to make an appointment for the fitting room, could other people be in the store at the same time?
I believe so. I think it's just, I didn't hear, no, they're not shutting the store down for the retail appointments, no.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, I think there were some capacity reductions on retail, but no, it's not shutting the store. And I think there's been some creativity. It doesn't say you need 24-hour advance notice on your appointment. They're just saying we need to limit who's in and out of the fitting room with the structured basis.
That's great.
Good. And I know lodging just opened in phase 2, and that's, you know, been a big relief for Nantucket. I know I'm on the Cape Cod Reopening Task Force. I listen in a little bit and hearing some of those struggles along the Cape and the islands. Have you heard kind of how lodging is doing? Is the recommendation for quarantine, you know, being followed, or still, you know, very strongly urged by the governor? And do you think that's going to be something that continues through phase 3?
Yeah, so that's interesting. The governor did mention it in his remarks last week about the advisory for those traveling out of state, and that an update is coming soon on that. So I don't have anything new other than I have been hearing much about what's the mixed message, right? So for example, let's say Cape and the Islands and the Reopening Task Force sending a message that summer's here on Cape Cod and we're welcoming visitors. And they're definitely acknowledging that there's a stay-home advisory for that out-of-state travel, and there's a lot of personal responsibility on that individual traveling. So as to when that will be lifted, again, it is an advisory. It's not a mandatory must. I think that what I was hearing was people were expanding their reservations into longer terms. And that's been a trend. And it'll be interesting to see now that phase 3 carries potential to start is after the 4th of July holiday, what the impact that is going to have on travel. But, I think for the Cape, they say the number one visitor, and probably for Nantucket and the islands too, are people with homes that are visiting friends and family is the number one visitor. And, a lot of those second homeowners now that's their work remote location. So they are monitoring, for example, water usage, that they know, geez, this month's data is up over last year's data of this month, which is indicating, they're counting, like cars coming over the bridge, for example, indicating people are utilizing their second homes in the seasonal locations.
Before you mentioned about how childcare is a key component to reopening the state, what is the process for childcare facilities to reopen, and have you seen centers opening up successfully across the state?
Yes, there have. There's been many, like I said, under the essential worker declaration that had been continuing to operate. And I just really want to refer you, because it's extensive guidance for childcare, mass.gov/reopening, scroll down and go to the sector-specific protocols. Again, a lot around mandatory workplace safety standards. And those businesses, just to be clear, while all the other industries are self-certifying, the childcare companies and daycare providers, they have oversight under one of the other state secretariats, and apologies, I'm missing, and they must have their their COVID control plan approved. So a little bit different for that particular sector. But, they're pretty regulated anyways. I think there's good communication between their affiliated state agencies and the providers. But yes, we are seeing that start to come online.
Okay, thank you.
And just speaking about childcare and our youngest community members, are there any insights into what the fall might look like? We're just wrapping up our school year of online learning, and I know a lot of parents are starting to wonder what this might look like.
Yeah, and I haven't heard anything new on that either. That'll be a media event. I don't get to get the hot off the press announcement on that one. But I hear you, and I really feel for all the families out there who are, conducting this remote learning. And I'm a bit grateful that my kids are out of college, and that was not on my plate, because I'm quite the multitasker, but being able to be present and do your job and care for your family is most definitely a challenge. And so I'm relieved for some that the remote school year has ended, but it's definitely it's definitely something that that the Commonwealth is working on, as are many. I did hear, I think, I don't know if it was Rhode Island that said we're forever canceling snow days. Like any snow day will be a virtual day. So I'm kind of hoping kids need a snow day to see that isn't one of those permanent changes. But I'll tell you, everything's being looked at, right? Like, how do you get to the new normal, and how can we keep our kids safe? And that's the priority.
Definitely.
So we've also received a lot of specific questions that are sometimes vague in the reopening guidelines. An example is, can people try on shoes or coats or things like that? Where should they send those specific questions?
Yep, so at mass.gov/reopening, there is an opportunity for you to submit the question. And I think, understand we've definitely done some things thematically and have not gotten into the nitty gritty of that. And I think is there an opportunity maybe to wear gloves or to sanitize after? What is it that you need to do for that activity to happen safely?
And yesterday we heard the news about H-2B and J-1 visas being limited or stopped this season, and that greatly impacts Nantucket workforce, the availability of the workforce. And I know that Sue just went over some of the resources for hiring. Do you know if there's any other conversations or ideas of how to help businesses through some sort of employee work share, or just ideas of how to retain employment and attract people to the state as we kind of work through our busy summer season.
Right, and I did hear about that, and that was a federal decision, but it obviously has much impact here in the Commonwealth. And I think that the other piece is for a lot of it being seasonal help, a lot of other employment, for example, like the college student employment or that high school student employment, opportunities have fallen through. So who is available to work within the Commonwealth? Like Sue mentioned, the career centers, while they're closed for the public walk-ins, they are doing virtual job fairs. They can help you with your job postings, getting the word out, getting the message out, and to attract that. I know obviously with Nantucket, housing, traveling to the vineyard where they stay, provides an additional layer of a challenge. And then, with the timing of here it is, we're at July, we're waiting for these phases to start. And when do you engage your workforce and how do you bring them on? I mean, it most definitely is a challenge. I do encourage you to touch base with the career centers. That is our Commonwealth under the Labor and Workforce Development, Secretary Acosta. They do have resources available to help you. And like we mentioned, for example, the work opportunity tax credit that the employers, Sue, how much is that? The tax credit is $1,000, $3,000 an employee?
It varies with how many hours the individual works.
That's right.
So, and there's a whole listing. It's a federal program, so there's a whole listing of what qualifies. And so it's really important when you hire an individual that you capture that information upon hiring. So you can't kind of retroactively go back and do the tax credit. It has to be from the point of hire.
So it's just like, for example, your HR, one of the forms you could have them fill out, you could provide this to ask this information, to legally, ask the information. And then if they indicate yes in any of these categories, then you could the business could take that federal tax credit. So that's, and I think it's a matter of there's some different tools out there helping companies understand how to access them. And that's where Sue and I can be a resource for them.
That's great to hear. Thank you.
So as we've seen in the last few days, cases have been spiking in states that reopened much earlier than Massachusetts. What would trigger the state to go backwards or close down some industries? And would it be by region or industry?
Yep, so it could be and I think we've kind of mentioned this going forward, as right now we're fully into phase 2, and it is going to be healthcare data. I don't have what the magic number it must be to make that decision, right? But there's data that they are watching and trending, and the administration has said, we could need to return to phase 1 before we get, from phase 2, you could need to go back to phase 1 to restart before you could get into phase 3. So very much data is driving those decisions, and it could be done by industry, it could be done by region, and it could be done by the whole state. So I think they've kind of set out a flexible framework as to how that could be done, depending on what the data is indicating. The higher, denser communities had much higher COVID effects than some of the smaller and the more rural areas, right? So right out of the gate, we had seen that data, but they are watching all of those factors to make their decisions. So, and I think part of, as you talk about, some will say, hey, Massachusetts, you're doing it too slow. Some will say, Massachusetts, you're doing it too fast. But this has been a very strategic approach. We recognize, where the exposure increases and have been slow or methodical about setting out a schedule to get to those, lower risk industries and lower risk transmission for the first phases, and now here we are into phase 2, and bringing things online like indoor dining. So we are making progress, but there are some of the highest risk exposure still being held off in phases 3 and 4. So I think the administration has said all along it's going to be very strategic. When we come to our plan, it's going to be a phased approach, giving us that opportunity that if there were a spike to occur, that we could roll back effectively quickly.
Thank you.
Sure.
And I think that approach has been really effective. There was just an article today that Massachusetts has one of the lowest transmission rates now among the entire United States. So we've really rolled back being such a hot spot.
We were number 3 in the country. So to say that, right? I mean, here it was, we were one of the hardest hit earliest. And so that's really great to see the media recognize that.
It is. In terms of kind of as we approach our tourism season, are there things that the state is doing to promote safe tourism so that if we do have travelers coming from some of these hotbed areas, how do we keep our communities safe?
Yeah, so I know, for example, the Cape Cod for the Cape and the Islands and the Cape Cod Chamber have really cheering with Senator Julian Cyr and all of the delegation that covers that area, the reopeningcapecod.org, great website, putting together information. I think that your particular region, because each of the state's regions have a regional tourism council, and your region tourism council is also housed within the Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce and Wendy Northcross, right? So Wendy's been very active on the Cape Cod co-chairing the reopening task force, as well as a representative on the tourism and hospitality subcommittee of the reopening advisory board. And then Linda Markham from Nantucket, from Cape Air and Cisco Brewery is also very active in that. So you're definitely getting a strong voice and representation. And they have been sending a strong message that the Cape is open for visitors, and understanding, what the protocols are, what to expect, messaging things around, your beaches, and what really setting expectations for visitors and providing clear information. So I think that the Cape and Islands in particular are doing a very strong job on that. And of course, the partner organization from the Commonwealth, also under Secretary Keneally, is MOT, Mass Office of Travel and Tourism, chaired by Kiko Orell. So I know that they're actively engaged in assisting the Cape and the Chamber and the task force with your messaging. So, it's the seasonality. We recognize, that, for example, for companies not making funds now, it's 9 months before they have an opportunity again. And, there's been trying to direct some resources there and helping get that message. And, the other states, for example, I think Maine, their marketing is not saying, come here, we're open. So your regional tourism council has had a strong message. And I think you'll be seeing, I hope that you're seeing the visitors arriving. I know some of the ferries your ferries have been operating, or seeing pretty strong numbers, right?
Yes. Yeah, definitely an increase. Not as strong as 2019, but we're starting to see that increase in tourism.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, that wraps up the questions that we've prepared and received. Are there any other comments that you guys would like to make, or information for businesses?
No, I just think I really encourage you to give us a call, or the Small Business Development Center if you need any application. For example, the PPP, the SBA programs. There are free resources offered by the Commonwealth through the Small Business Development Center, through SCORE, the Center for Women Enterprise. And if a company needs help completing their application or doing some forecasting, take advantage of these free resources that are out there. I know people like business counseling, I don't need that. Technical assistance, I don't need that. But you'll be glad you make that phone call. It's always good to kind of talk someone through. I think a business being really blindsided overnight from a profitable company to their financial position now, it's helpful to hear from someone who's maybe helped navigate companies through other downturns as to what to expect and timeline for recovery. So I just really encourage you to, I know it's overwhelming, but we're here to help. We have access to other people. If we don't have the answer to your question, we can expedite it internally, and we just welcome you to contact us, and really, truly wishing all of you well. And it's been a challenge, so we recognize that.
Thank you. And thank you guys so much for your time today. I know that you're hopping around to many different chambers, and we really appreciate you helping the Nantucket businesses. So thank you so much, and you're welcome to sign off now.
All right, thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Marina, we're going to jump into some small business updates from the chamber.
Yeah. Here, I'll start it off. So Kristie, how is phase 2, step 2 going, and what businesses open this week?
So that was one of the most exciting announcements that we had last week from the governor, was the announcement of step 2 in phase 2. So phase 2 started a couple weeks ago with outdoor dining and other things like lodging opening up and hair salons. And then we were able to move into the step 2, where the governor kind of cut up phase 2 so not everybody started at the same time. It helps with kind of keeping data on different industries and being able to monitor things like that. So now we have indoor dining, personal services, and office space has expanded to 50% instead of 25% capacity. And lastly, retail, the expansion for them is the ability to do fitting rooms by appointment only. So on Nantucket, we've really seen just in the last 2 days, all the restaurants both having indoor and outdoor dining, but that key opening of indoor dining has been very helpful. It's not as weather dependent. There's still the guidelines and restrictions, so all tables have to be 6 feet apart, reusable menu, single-use menus, or the ability to look at the menu online. And all single-use items like cups, forks, knives, things like that are as much single-use as possible, or at least not displayed on the table when you arrive. Other than that, we saw retail open up and lodging in this last opening of phase 2.
Yeah, it's been great when you walk around town actually being able to see everything opening.
It has been. And what are some of the ways that businesses can market that they're open through the chamber?
Yeah, so the main thing is just letting us know that you are open. You can email me, Marina at nantucketchamber.org, or Laura at nantucketchamber.org, and we'll get you immediately onto our open businesses category list. And then from there, restaurants, you were also placed under the takeout category. You're in a food and dining tour group, and you're also going to be on our COVID page. And then retail also will be in a retail tour. So this is for our map, and on our website, our interactive map, which is also a widget. And then along with that, we can also refer you to people when we get those phone calls from tourists coming to Nantucket or who are already here, and we can help them direct you to your business.
And that's been one of the biggest questions we've been receiving as a tourism office is what's open. So for anybody listening, what's that website to find out what's open?
So you're going to go to nantucketchamber.org/open.
Awesome. And just a follow-up question as our Director of Marketing and Social Media Guru, do you have any tips for businesses as they're trying to stay relevant and get through COVID, and ways to really engage customers and let them know that they're open?
Yeah, so a big thing is just putting it out that you are open. You can't just really sit around and wait for people to show up. The main things I say is, so as a chamber member, you get a web page as part of our website. So you can go log in there and update your description to tell people you're open so that they can find you easily, even just clicking from the category of open businesses. Post on your social media. I notice a lot of businesses that post in the different groups and things like that on their personal Facebooks and Instagrams, but make sure you're using your business one as well and posting there, because people use that to see if you're open and what your hours are. Make sure you update your Google listing. So every business has a business listing on Google, and you want to make sure that if you're open, it says that and what your hours are, and that it links to your website. You want to make sure that on the front of your website, it does say that you are open. And also if there's any restrictions, make sure you list those as well. So wearing a mask, and then also social distancing, or if you have a line outside, or different things that people won't expect. And yeah, definitely just keeping everything updated and letting everyone know that you are open.
I've been seeing so many creative ways of using social media. This past week, Club Car just announced what their menu will be this week, and it was a lead up where you had to guess through the social media poll, and then they announced it via their Instagram story. So it's definitely a creative way to engage an audience that is definitely using more time on their phone as we're sitting home for the past couple of months, but really great advice about how to get the word out there.
Yeah, it's great seeing the big digital presence now, as everyone of all age groups has to kind of be forced to use digital media more so. Kristie, question for you. So the island is starting to feel like summer with the reopening of restaurants and lodging. Which industries are still waiting to reopen, and how can we support them at this time?
So that's been one of the most challenging parts of this phased reopening is some people being able to open sooner than others. So the ones that are still waiting are things like fitness, gyms, museums, and movie theaters, as well as bars and live concerts and entertainment. So all the industries that are waiting are ones that have kind of inside close confinement activities or merchandise. And so we're still anxiously waiting for things like the Whaling Museum and Lightship Basket Museum to be able to open up for the public. We know that when they do open, I'm sure there'll be limited capacity and innovative ideas of ways to experience these things in different ways as we learn this post-COVID world. But ways that you can support them right now is if they have items like gift certificates or membership packages like the Whaling Museum or the Dreamland, you could buy gift certificates. Places like live entertainment, as many as possible have been converting. So places like the Chicken Box or the Gaslight are doing food. So you could support them by investing in this new business line that they have. And the other ways is just sharing some of their content on social media. Write a review, even if you attended a concert last year. Thank them for what they've provided you and be able to support them as they reopen. And as soon as we enter phase 3 and phase 4, go out and support all these small businesses.
Yeah, it's been great watching all the different businesses adapt to be able to get open sooner.
It's definitely made for a new Nantucket, and it's going to be an exciting summer.
Yes.
On that note, I know that we've been working on a welcome back campaign and trying to announce that the island is open for the season. Can you talk a little bit about some of the marketing things that you're working on for the island?
Yeah, so due to COVID, you can't get a lot of print right now. It's one, pick it up and then you can kind of take it, but it's not very reusable. So we're focusing a lot on digital marketing. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook, and you'll notice we post a lot of updates, even just what's open or what there is to do here. And with that, we are also working on email marketing. For all of our members, you will, I believe by the end of next week, you should have received an email from us, and it's going to have some different types of social media posts and email templates for you to use that you have the option to customize to send out to your email list and to your followers so that they can get the message that you are open and Nantucket is open. We're working with also a few different companies across Massachusetts and a few outside of Massachusetts, not too far away, to kind of advertise those areas to travel to Nantucket. We have some stuff in Boston going on right now, some digital billboards, and we have a digital billboard, I believe, in Connecticut right now in partnership with other regional tourism councils for the state. And it's been exciting just kind of watching this campaign grow. We're using the hashtag Visit Nantucket, so your business can start posting now and showcasing that. And then we'll also reshare it as well.
That's great. And it's been really nice to see this transition from the, We Miss You campaign that we started back in March of businesses really saying, we miss you and we can't wait to welcome you back when the time is right. And now we're finding that the time is right and we're excited to welcome people back.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
So that wraps up our show today for Small Business Updates. Thank you so much for joining me, Marina, and a huge thank you to Sue and Margaret for joining us and providing all those updates for businesses. We'll see you next week.
Bye.